Regan. Brian, hey, congratulations on your documentary, Imperfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know, more of a congratulations that is being showcased at this year's Slamdance Film Festival this year. How do you two feel about that?
I think we're pretty excited. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible opportunity to be in the company of other independent filmmakers who are, you know, masters of storytelling and don't have a lot of influence of huge, you know, backers or funders that are kind of influencing, you know, where they take their films. So yeah, I mean, it's an incredible opportunity for our little film that could.
Well, yeah. You want to add anything, Brian?
I was just going to say, what I've been telling people is that it's been very surreal. Like it hasn't really sunk in yet because it feels, it's almost too big to comprehend how significant it is. But, you know, as more and more people, as I talk to more and more people, it is starting to sink in. And it feels pretty awesome. I can now say with all cognition, it's a pretty cool feeling. One that, you know, I may never have again, but right now it's pretty joyful and triumphant.
That is excellent to hear from both of you. So let's ask that obligatory question. What sparked the idea to make this documentary?
Well, Brian and I knew each other through actually making educational videos for the spinal cord injury rehab where I went after my injury. And so we were in the midst of making videos about tracheostomies and bowel and bladder management and things like that. And we're just talking about the extraordinary nature of Family Theater Company in Denver and said, you know what, when we're done with these educational videos, what if we actually brought the story of this incredible group of people to the world? So I think it was partly, you know, just a mutual interest in this theater company, and then partly an admiration for each other that made us decide to collaborate on this film.
Okay. By the way, guys, I'm at the drive-through. Do you guys want anything? Oh. Can I get you anything?
Is it an In-N-Out drive-through? Because then I will be all over it. Okay.
It's just cheap McDonald's because they have $1 Diet Cokes.
I was going to add for Regan is that if it's an In-N-Out, try ordering the salad and see how that works.
Yeah. Salad, animal style. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I think Regan just kind of hit it. We both kind of recognized that there's something very cool that we could do together. And, you know, it's not often that you find someone who has kind of like the whole package, the work ethic and the talent and the skills and kind of the vision of being able to do something cool. So we decided, you know, that, you know, would be a pretty good gamble, good roll of the dice to try to get together and figure something out. We didn't exactly know what we were going to do, how the film was going to end up, but we did kind of figure this is like the scene in American Movie. Do you remember that scene where he's in the Burger King drive-through and he's trying to have this conversation with the guy interviewing him, and he's talking about how he loves a Whopper over McDonald's because the Whopper is like flame broiled and shit. Do you guys remember that scene?
No.
This is very surreal.
But I'll take word for it.
Oh, you got to watch it. I'm going to send you guys this scene afterwards, so you'll thoroughly enjoy what I just lived through. It's fabulous. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
But ditto to the first part of what Brian said. Yeah.
Yes, ditto. That's going to be my answer for everything now. Ditto.
So for both of you, you just started just to film everything, but you didn't realize what you actually have until the editing process? Is that how this this documentary Imperfect actually came about?
Pretty much. I mean, we had a general idea of what parts of the process, because it was a you know, production process of a musical, based on our past experience and, you know, my plotting of the musical, we kind of knew what pieces, so like auditions and callbacks, and then part of the rehearsal process and the opening night. But within that, yeah, exactly, we had no idea what we were going to get. So a lot of the process was Brian racing around and capturing as much as he could, you know, and then there was, I mean, it was quite enjoyable to sit afterward and watch 80 hours of footage and just start to discover like, oh my gosh, that happened? Like you caught that? Like what is, so at least for me, because I was kind of sidetracked by directing the musical a lot of the time during the film, afterward, the opportunity to kind of go back and start combing through after the principal filming period was over, was like a whole other, you know, discovery, opportunity for discovery. And that's where we started stitching together the narrative of the film.
Wow, most excellent. So when you pitched it to the Family Theater Company that you were going to film it, what did you actually pitch it to them at the time?
Well, I mean, because I was artistic director at the time, so I said, oh, you know, guys, we think that this would be cool to like make a documentary about the process, and, you know, we'll stay out of people's way, and we'll just be there to kind of observe, and people can tell us no, and, you know, so, but everybody was so, I mean, obviously it probably ended up being a little bit more invasive in a good way ultimately than that, but everyone was so game. You know, there were maybe a few people that just were uncomfortable here or there, but for the most part, everyone was so generous with their time and their energy and opening up to us that, you know, the biggest kudos go to them, because we wouldn't have this film if it weren't for all of them being willing to let us in.
But I'd also add that I think there was a big curiosity factor also. I think that a lot of people, frankly, yeah, there were some uncomfortable moments, which it happens every time you're making, you know, a film like this. You know, you're getting into people's personal lives and personal space. It's going to be uncomfortable. But I think that overall, and I would say almost everyone really knew what they were getting into in a certain way. And I don't know, maybe they were into it because maybe they understood, even if we didn't understand fully, what the mission of the film was, is that we wanted to give these guys the spotlight. These guys generally never get the spotlight, and they're overlooked. And I think that the fact that we took an interest in them and took an interest in showcasing them, good, bad, or otherwise, you know, was actually really something that I think I felt it. I felt they were into it. They enjoyed it. Some people, you know, played to the camera probably more than they should. In fact, I had to tell a couple of people, don't look at the camera. Don't look at the camera, you know? So, you know, it was fun. It was really in my experience, the shooting was a lot of fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know everyone who was in the film.
Was there any moment during the filming that you want to be mindful of certain people's disabilities, or did you want to capture, you know, the raw essence of their experiences?
Well, that's interesting because for me, you know, as a trained journalist, I'm more of the old school journalism trope, which is, you know, you don't get in the way of the story. You don't try to filter the story. You don't try to taint the story with your own disposition one way or the other, your own presence. And so for me, it was really just trying to be as honest as I possibly can, recording things as they happen, and not trying to make more or less out of it. So whatever unfolded in front of the camera, I just wanted to be present in the room. And you know, one of the things I talk about a lot is that, you know, once I have my shot set up on the tripod and I'm rolling, I'm oftentimes just like scanning the room to see what else might be going on, to see who else might be, what other kind of situations might be developing, or what else of interest might be happening in another side of the room where, say, I need to go next, or, you know, I had a second camera. So sometimes I'd even go so far as to kind of lock the A camera down, continue rolling on it, and then pick up the smaller B camera and walk around and shoot something else and try not to get my own shot. And there were actually some pretty magical moments that came out of that technique just by being present in the room. So regarding people's disability, I mean, it wasn't so much that, it was really more being cognizant of their own personal space and their own, you know, their few meltdowns on camera that we gathered. And, you know, I felt it was really important to get those to help tell the story so that people understand, you know, really all the pressures that anybody could go through, and people are going to react differently when things kind of go south sometimes. And I thought that was an important and honest thing to capture for the film without kind of like being in someone's face, you know, with the camera. So at a respectable distance where you can still see and hear things clearly.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think the unique nature of family being what it terms as a disability affirmative organization, which means that the folks in this company are affirming that identity of disability, not as something shameful, not as something stigmatized. It just is part of their lives. You know, they go through every day with Parkinson's, with autism, with cerebral palsy, with spinal cord injury. And so I think, you know, I don't know that a film like this could have been made somewhere else where there wasn't that kind of loving, supportive, affirmative nature that allows this company the trust to open up not only on the theatrical stage, but then also to us as filmmakers. So I think that's also part of what allowed them to feel like there was a level of comfort and pride in who they are that I think we don't get out in the wider world. There's still a lot of stigma, a lot of stereotyping, a lot of fear and misunderstanding about disability. So I think that's, you know, one of the really unique things about this company.
Now, Regan, I was going to say, Regan, you're highly involved, you know, with this company at the time, and not only with Brian running around filming everything. How did you balance that? I guess technically there were moments of reality that actually sank in.
Yeah, there were definitely moments where you can see the veneer cracking, which we thought were also really important to put into the film. Actually, it's interesting as I've talked to some artists who have seen the film, whether it's filmmakers or theater artists or any kind of artists, and they've said, you know, one of the most meaningful parts in the film is seeing that self-doubt creep in, you know, because every artist experiences that. You know, you hit a certain point in a process and you're like, what am I doing? Have I led everybody astray? Is this the worst idea ever? So, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot happening that summer. There were a lot of things going on, and I'm sure my hair started, you know, going gray a little prematurely because of it, and Brian's too. But, you know, I think, again, because we were working through with each other and had a lot of support from the entire community, it kind of helped us push through a lot of the complexity of managing all those different pieces.
Excellent. And how important it is to basically update the documentary with the sort of like the epilogue, the aftermath of everybody.
Well, so much had happened. You know, I'm not going to give away the film, but so much had happened from the time we shot to the time we finished the film. I mean, most of the film was shot back in the good old days of PC, pre-COVID. And, you know, life changed for all of us profoundly in this pandemic age that we're now living in now. And we're still trying to make sense of it in the long term. And I'm not sure that we'll know how this pandemic, among other things, has really impacted us for a very long time. Maybe historians will look back and at this, I don't know, like they did in 1919 or whatever. I don't know. But what I think is it was important to really check in with these folks after this production, because I felt like it was important to know that these people, it gives them a more fulsome view of who they are, that they're still living, they're still out there, they're still breathing, still making a living, still charging forward, still living their lives, you know, in most cases. And I think that is really important to add dimension to each of the characters that we profiled in this film.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little behind the scenes. You know, we initially envisioned a very different ending to this film, because I was supposed to be part of a production out in the Washington, D.C. area, a theater production. And so we had this grandiose idea that like it would kind of end with, you know, me like rolling on stage and Brian was going to come out and film it. And then we were 2 weeks into that production and it was shut down because of COVID, you know, and I think it's like, and obviously a lot of other things happened, as Brian said, that took us in a completely different direction. And I think that's the most perfect example of the way life happens, right? That, you know, it's always things you don't expect. But as Brian said, like you keep going on and things happen the way they do. And it's that kind of philosophy of like amor fati, you know, love of fate. Like you just got to kind of love whatever you're dealt and move forward and, you know, realize life is short and go for it. But I think we ended up with a much more impactful, real ending because of the things that transpired.
That is true. I mean, the stage theater during COVID is a wholly different documentary itself, if that was made.
Yeah.
Well, let me wrap it with one last question. As audiences in Slamdance and hopefully more people down the road get a chance to watch Imperfect, what is the one most important take that you hope that, you know, we would walk away with after viewing your documentary?
I don't know. Maybe the film should be called Inconvenient instead of Imperfect. Life is imperfect. Life is inconvenient. But that's kind of what the human experience is. And we're all inconvenient and imperfect in our own way. And hopefully there's a deep connection that the audience will have with this film and with the characters in this film, and hopefully they'll recognize part of themselves in an ensemble of characters. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that to say, the more we can embrace those places of imperfection, inconvenience, all the unexpected things of life, often the more full and interesting it becomes, just like these human beings that are in this film. So, you know, rather than running away from it, charging into it and, you know, without fear, as they do when they get up on stage. So I hope it gives some people, you know, some audience members, some motivation to just kind of like fearlessly charge after the things that they're passionate about. And go for it.
Well, actors do have passion. Actors have to act. That's for certain. Regan, Brian, thank you very much for talking to us about Imperfect. And once again, congratulations and thank you for showcasing this wonderful film at Slamdance. Hopefully we get to speak to you again in future projects.
Thank you, Gig.
Thank you.